Maureen mocked her scar in front of everyone, then found out she earned it, saving his division. The scar ran from her left collarbone to the bottom of her jaw. 4.5 inches. A raised ridge of pale skin, slightly thicker in the middle where the shrapnel had gone deepest. Most people looked once and looked away. Corporal Donna Reyes had spent 11 years getting used to that. What she hadn't gotten used to was what happened on the morning of March 7, 2019, in the lobby of the VA regional office in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She was 41 years old, had driven 43 miles from her home in Bernalillo County to file a secondary service connection claim for nerve damage along the left side of her neck. She wore a gray zip-up jacket. Unzipped, she wasn't hiding anything. Hadn't in years. The lobby held maybe 30 people, plastic chairs arranged in rows, a number dispenser near the door, fluorescent lights that hummed at a frequency you noticed after the first 5 minutes. Donna pulled ticket number 47. The board above the service windows showed 31. She sat down in the second row and waited. The man who spoke was in the row behind her. She heard him before she turned. His voice was loud, the kind of loud that doesn't know it's loud. He was talking to the man next to him. Veteran, maybe 60. Ball cap, with a unit patch on it she didn't recognize from that angle. He was saying something about the people in the lobby, the usual types, the ones who came in for benefits they hadn't earned. She heard the word faker. She heard the word theater. Then she heard him say the scar looked like something she'd gotten falling off a bar stool. The man next to him said nothing. 2 other people in the row turned to look. No one said anything. Donna turned back around and looked at the number board. It still said 31. She had known men like that her entire career. 12 years in the United States Marine Corps. 2 deployments. One to Iraq in 2004, and one to the Helmand province of Afghanistan in 2009. She had been a motor transport operator in 8th Motor Transport Battalion out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. She moved convoys. That was the job. Move people, equipment, and supplies through roads that were always watched, and sometimes not roads at all. The scar was from the second deployment. September 14, 2009, a stretch of unpaved route south of Marjo, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Her ticket number came up at 9:47 in the morning. She walked to window 4, filed her paperwork. The clerk was efficient and professional, and the whole thing took 11 minutes. She picked up her copy, folded it, put it in her jacket pocket, walked back through the lobby. The man with the ball cap was still there. Number 58. The board showed 44. He had time. She stopped in front of him. He looked up. She said the scar was from a command-detonated IED on Route 611 south of Marja. She said the blast hit the second vehicle in the convoy. She was driving the first. She reversed back into the kill zone to pull the occupants of the second vehicle out before a secondary device could detonate. She said it took 4 minutes and 20 seconds. She said 3 Marines from 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines made it home because of those 4 minutes. She said the shrapnel caught her when she was pulling the third one clear. She said she didn't say any of this because she needed him to feel bad about it. She said she said it because he deserved to know what he was looking at. Then she walked out. She didn't know who the man was, didn't know he was also a Marine, didn't know he was from 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, didn't know that on September 14, 2009, he had been one of the 3. That part came later. Donna Reyes grew up in Bernalillo County, the second of 4 children. Her father worked maintenance at the Albuquerque Water Treatment Facility for 26 years. Her mother cleaned rooms at a hotel on Central Avenue until her knees gave out in 2001. They owned a house on Chamasal Road, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a yard with 2 cottonwood trees that dropped leaves every October in quantities her father described as unreasonable. She enlisted in November of 1999. 18 years old. Her recruiter was a staff sergeant named Dominguez, who had the kind of patient manner that made you feel like joining was your own idea. She signed papers at the MEP station in Albuquerque on a Tuesday and left for Parris Island, South Carolina on a Friday. Basic was 13 weeks. She didn't find it easy. She found it manageable. There is a difference. She graduated as a private first class on February 11, 2000. Her parents drove out for the ceremony. Her father took photographs with a disposable camera. He used the whole roll. She went to motor transport school at Camp Johnson, North Carolina. Learned to drive 7-ton trucks, 5-ton cargo vehicles, the new WV in its various configurations. Learned convoy operations, vehicle recovery, basic maintenance. She was good at it. Not because the driving came naturally, it took her longer than most, but because she paid attention to every mechanical thing that could go wrong and learned it until she understood why. Her first duty station was Camp Lejeune, 8th Motor Transport Battalion. She arrived in the summer of 2000 and stayed for 6 years, rotating through deployments and training cycles that accumulated the way time does when you're too busy to count it. The Iraq deployment was 2004, 7 months. She drove convoys in Anbar province. The roads there were long and flat and exposed, and every trip operated on the assumption that something was buried somewhere you hadn't been yet. She drove 214 convoys over those 7 months. She came home with a combat action ribbon and hearing in both ears and no visible injuries. She considered that an outcome. She made corporal in 2006, extended her enlistment twice. By the time the Afghanistan orders came in 2009, she had 9 years in the Marine Corps and had driven more combined miles through Iraq than most long-haul truckers drove in a year. The second deployment was different. Helmand Province in 2009 was not like Anbar in 2004. The terrain was different. The roads, where they existed, were narrower. The agricultural land created choke points that didn't exist in open desert. The eyed threat had evolved. Command-detonated devices had become more common, more accurate. The timing was tighter. She arrived at Camp Dwyer in August of 2009. Attached to 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines for convoy support. The battalion was conducting operations in and around Marja as part of a broader effort to establish security in the area. The convoys she ran supplied those operations. Food, ammunition, equipment, personnel, 37 convoys between August and September. She drove the lead vehicle in 22 of them. Lead position was not a volunteer job. It was an assignment. She had been assigned it because of her experience and because she read terrain well. She knew how to look at a road surface and see what didn't belong. September 14th was a Sunday. The convoy departed Camp Dwyer at 0610. 8 vehicles. Destination, a forward operating position 12 miles south of Marja. Route 611 was a mixed surface road, part paved, part compacted gravel, part dried mud that cracked like old tile in the September heat. She had driven it 11 times before. The device was in the gravel section, approximately 7 miles from departure. She saw the wire at the wrong moment, not early enough to stop. The second vehicle, a 7-ton carrying 4 Marines from 2nd Battalion, took the blast at 0712. The explosion lifted the rear of the vehicle and dropped it at an angle. The vehicle came to rest partially off the road, the passenger side lower than the driver's side by roughly 30 degrees. Secondary device threat was immediate and standard. Protocol was forward movement, clear the kill zone, establish security. Donna stopped the lead vehicle. That was not the protocol. She put it in reverse. The distance back to the disabled vehicle was 48 meters. She covered it in under a minute. She got out. The driver of the second vehicle was conscious and ambulatory. She got him moving toward her vehicle. The front passenger was not ambulatory. She pulled him. He was 210 pounds. She weighed 141. She pulled him through the passenger door and across the gravel, 42 meters to her vehicle. The rear passengers were still getting out on their own. The third pull was the last one. A lance corporal who had been in the rear cargo bed. He had a fractured left arm and a dislocated shoulder, and he could not use either hand to grip. She had him by the collar of his flak jacket when the secondary device, smaller than the first, went off 31 meters to the south. The pressure wave and the fragmentation reached her at the same time. The shrapnel was a piece of irregular metal, later recovered and measured at 3 inches by 1.5 inches, that caught her on the left side of the neck below the jaw. She kept moving. She got the lance corporal to the vehicle. Got in. Drove forward. Covered the remaining 5 miles to the fob. She was still driving when the blood soaked through her collar, and the collar soaked through onto the seat. The Navy corpsman at the fob counted 4.5 inches of laceration. Muscle and tissue damage. No arterial involvement. She was transferred to Craig Joint Theatre Hospital in Bagram for surgery. She spent 9 days there. She came back to Camp Dwyer. She drove 8 more convoys before the deployment ended. She received the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for her actions on September 14th. The citation was 3 paragraphs. It listed the actions in the sequence they occurred. It used language like utter disregard for her own safety and at great personal risk. She folded the citation and put it in a box with her other service documents. The box was in her closet in Bernalillo County. She separated from the Marine Corps in November of 2011. 12 years of service. She drove back to New Mexico in a 2004 Ford F-150 with 178,000 miles on it. Stayed with her parents for 4 months. Found work driving a delivery route for a building materials company in Albuquerque. She drove a flatbed loaded with rebar and wallboard through the same Albuquerque streets she had grown up on. Kept that job for 3 years. Left it in 2014 when the company consolidated routes and cut 1/3 of the drivers. Found other work. Lost other work. The usual movement of a veteran trying to find the version of regular life that fits. She took a driving position with a concrete supply company in 2015. Short haul, mostly residential job sites, early starts and early finishes. She liked the early starts. She had been waking before 0500 for so long that sleeping past that felt wrong in a way she couldn't resolve. The nerve damage showed up the same year, a persistent numbness along the left side of her neck and jaw. It had been there in some form since 2009, but she had classified it as background noise and treated it accordingly. By the spring of 2015, it had stopped being background noise. It ran from below her ear to the upper part of her collarbone on the left side. Some mornings her jaw felt like it belonged to someone else. Her doctor at the VA clinic in Albuquerque attributed it to scar tissue compression and possible shrapnel tract involvement along the accessory nerve. He ordered imaging. The imaging confirmed both. He referred her case for a service connection claim. She filed that claim in August of 2015. The primary connection was approved in 4 months. The secondary component, the nerve damage, was denied. The denial language cited insufficient evidence linking the nerve condition directly to her documented injuries. She appealed. The appeal was still working through the system 3.5 years later. That was why she was in the VA lobby in Albuquerque in March of 2019. The paperwork. The 43-mile drive. Ticket number 47. His name was Staff Sergeant Robert Calhoun. Retired. He was 57 years old in 2019. He had served 21 years in the Marine Corps, most of them with the infantry, with 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines as his last unit before retiring in 2013. He had been in the cargo area of the 2nd vehicle on Route 611 on September 14th. He lived in Santa Fe since 2016. He drove a 2011 Chevy Silverado and wore the same ball cap he had owned for 6 years. Not a statement, just a hat. He did not know the name of the Motor T corporal who had reversed the lead vehicle into a live kill zone and pulled 3 men out in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. He knew a woman had done it. Had known that for 10 years. He had heard the convoy commander describe it in a debrief 4 days after the incident. Had heard the story again from Eduardo Cisneros at the Jacksonville reunion in 2014. He had tried once, in 2013, to find her name through informal channels. He reached out to 2 Marines still serving who had been assigned to that convoy. One didn't respond. The other said he'd look into it. He never followed up. Calhoun wasn't sure why he'd let it go. He just had. He had not come to the VA lobby that morning with any intention beyond filing his own claim for a bilateral knee condition he had been putting off documenting for 3 years. He had not known she would be there. He had not known who she was when he made the comments about the scar. He had said it the way men say things when they're filling silence and not paying attention to what their words land on. His wife, who had died in 2017, had told him more than once that he talked too loud and too carelessly in public spaces. He had agreed with her both times she said it. He would not have said what he said if he had known. But that's the thing about not knowing. It's the same as knowing and choosing not to. She was already gone by the time he understood. He put it together slowly, the way you put things together when information arrives from too many directions at once. The scar location, the unit she mentioned, the date, the 4 minutes and 20 seconds. He had heard a number like that before. From Eduardo Cisneros at the Jacksonville reunion in 2014, Cisneros had said the driver backed in and pulled them out in under 5 minutes. Said she kept her hand on his collar even after the second device went off. Said he still thought about it. The math wasn't difficult once Calhoun let himself do it. He got her name through the VA that afternoon. He explained the situation to a supervisor at the service window. The supervisor was not obligated to help with something like this. She helped anyway. She made 2 phone calls and came back with a name. Dana Reyes, Bernalillo County. She had listed a phone number on her claim paperwork. He did not call it right away. He sat in his truck in the VA parking lot for 38 minutes. The Silverado was warm in the afternoon sun, and he did not turn on the engine or the air conditioning. He just sat. 38 minutes. Then he called. She picked up on the 3rd ring. He told her who he was. She was quiet for a moment, not a long moment, just enough. He told her what he had put together. He told her he had been in the cargo bed of the 2nd vehicle on September 14th, 2009. He told her that when he saw her walk out of the lobby that morning, he had not recognized her face, but he had recognized something about the way she moved that he couldn't name or explain. He told her he was sorry for what he said. He told her it was a poor excuse for a man. She told him he had been heavier than she expected. He did not say anything for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was the kind of laugh that comes from somewhere that hasn't been accessed in a long time. They met in person 2 weeks later, a diner on Central Avenue in Albuquerque. He drove down from Santa Fe, where he had been living since 2016. They sat for 2 hours and 20 minutes. She had coffee. He had coffee and a piece of pie he didn't finish. They talked about Helmand, about the road, about what the 9 days in Bagram had been like from her side, and what the evacuation had been like from his side. There were things that matched up and things that didn't. Memory works differently depending on which vehicle you were in. He asked to see the scar, not intrusively. He asked the way you ask about something that you feel some ownership of, but understand isn't yours. She showed him. He looked at it for a long time, did not say anything about it. She did not ask him what he was thinking. The lance corporal with the fractured arm was a man named Eduardo Cisneros. He lived in San Antonio. Calhoun called him that same week, told him he had found her. Cisneros went quiet the way men go quiet when they hear news they have been waiting for a long time and still aren't prepared for. He flew to Albuquerque the following month. That meeting lasted 4 hours. Mostly it was Cisneros doing the talking. The driver of the second vehicle had died in 2017, a non-service-related cause. The front passenger, the one Dana had pulled first, was living in Columbus, Ohio. He came 6 months after Cisneros. He walked into the diner on Central Avenue and looked at Dana Reyes for a long time before he said anything. He told her he had thought about her 4 times a week for 10 years. He didn't know that was the right number. It was just the number that came out when he said it. The VA appeal for Dana's secondary service connection claim was resolved in October of 2019. The nerve damage was accepted. The nerve damage was already there and had been there since 2009, and the resolution of the claim changed nothing about the nerve damage. It changed the monthly payment by $218. She did not find this either satisfying or unsatisfying. She found it a fact. What changed was the other thing. The thing that doesn't get written in citations. The 3 men from the second vehicle started a process that took 8 months and the assistance of a Marine Veterans Advocacy group in San Diego. They gathered statements. They gathered the original citation documentation. They gathered medical records from the September 14th evacuation. They submitted a package to the SECNAV Review Board requesting an upgrade of Dana Reyes's Navy and Marine Corps medal to a Bronze Star with Combat Distinguishing Device. She was notified by letter in June of 2020. Ceremony was held at the Marine Corps base in Quantico, Virginia on October 2, 2020. Her father was 71 years old and did not drive long distances anymore. He flew for the first time in his life. Her mother came with him. Her 2 sisters came. The 3 Marines she had pulled out of the kill zone on Route 6111 stood in the room. The 3 Marines she had pulled out of the kill zone on Route 6111 stood in the room. Staff Sergeant Calhoun had driven from Santa Fe the night before and stayed at a hotel 8 miles from the base. He arrived 40 minutes before the ceremony started. He was not sure what to wear. He had dress clothes. He put them on and then took them off and went with slacks and a button shirt with no tie and the ball cap. He stood in the row directly behind Dana during the ceremony. He said it felt right to be behind her, the way it had felt wrong to be in front of her that morning in the lobby. She said afterward that it did. Eduardo Cisneros wore his dress blues. He had kept them, still fit, more or less. He stood at attention for most of the ceremony without being asked. The man from Columbus, Ohio, whose name was Marcus Webb, wore a suit he had bought specifically for this. He stood next to Cisneros and did not say much. He didn't need to. Dana's father took photographs with a digital camera her sister had brought. He had learned to use it in the 2 weeks before the trip. He was not very good at it yet. He took 47 photographs. 31 of them were usable. He kept all 47. The VA appeal for Dana's secondary service connection claim was resolved in October of 2019, 4 months after the lobby encounter. The nerve damage was accepted. It had been there since 2009. The resolution of the claim changed nothing about the nerve itself. It changed the monthly payment by $218. She did not find this either satisfying or unsatisfying. She found it a fact. What changed was the other thing. The thing that doesn't get written in citations. The 3 men from the second vehicle spent 8 months and the assistance of a veterans advocacy group in San Diego putting together a package. Statements. Medical records from the September 14th evacuation. The original citation documentation from 2009. Letters from the convoy commander and the battalion XO, both retired, attesting to the specific sequence of events. They submitted it to the SECNAV Review Board, requesting an upgrade of Dana Reyes's Navy and Marine Corps medal to a Bronze Star with Combat Distinguishing Device. She was notified by letter in June of 2020. It arrived on a Tuesday. She read it twice, put it on the kitchen counter and made coffee, and stood there for a while before reading it a 3rd time. The ceremony was held at Marine Corps Base Quantico, Virginia on October 2, 2020. Her father was 71 years old. He had not flown on an airplane since 1989. He flew. Her mother came with him. Her 2 sisters drove up from Albuquerque and Richmond. The ceremony lasted 40 minutes. The brigadier general who presented the medal shook her hand and said something to her quietly. She nodded. What he said was not recorded in any official documentation. The Bronze Star is in a case in her living room on Chamisal Road, 3 blocks from the house she grew up in. She bought the house in 2022. 2 bedrooms and a room she uses for storage and a yard with 1 cottonwood that drops, leaves every October in quantities she has not yet developed an opinion about. The medal case is the first thing you see when you walk through the front door. She did not put it there for anyone else. She put it there because it was the right place for it. The scar is still there. It will always be there. 4.5 inches of raised pale tissue from her collarbone to the bottom of her jaw, slightly thicker in the middle, where the shrapnel went deepest. Some mornings the nerve runs hot, a tingling that moves from her ear to her shoulder. Some mornings it is quiet. She does not track which mornings are which. She does not cover the scar. She never did.